What does it really mean to obey and follow the messenger? And is there an actual difference between a prophet and a messenger?
Yes, Omar. It's a very controversial topic, but actually quite simple if we stick to the Quran and think about it logically. Let's start with the difference between a prophet and a messenger. Allah said in chapter 19, verse 54, "And mention in the book Ishmael. Indeed, he was true to his promise, and he was a messenger and a prophet." And in chapter 22, verse 52, Allah said, "And we did not send before you any messenger or prophet, except that when he recited or desired, Satan threw into his recitation." From these verses, we can clearly see that a prophet and a messenger are not the same. Let's break down the difference. A messenger receives revelation from Allah and is also given a new divine scripture. For example, Prophet Muhammad was both a prophet and a messenger and was given the Quran. Allah said in chapter 57, "We sent our messengers with clear proofs and sent down with them the scripture in the balance so that the people may uphold justice." And in chapter 5, verse 67, Allah said, "O messenger, convey what has been revealed to you from your Lord. And if you do not, then you have not conveyed his message." A prophet, on the other hand, also receives revelation from Allah, but is not given a new scripture. He is sent to uphold, confirm, and remind people of Allah's existing message. So while both receive revelation from Allah, only the messenger is entrusted with a new scripture. In short, every messenger is a prophet, but not every prophet is a messenger. Only those prophets who receive a new scripture are both a messenger and prophet.
So the messenger holds a more distinct role than the prophet, since he is given a new revelation in Scripture.
Exactly, Omar. Now let's explain what obey the messenger and follow the messenger truly mean. In the Quran, we find both commands, follow the messenger and obey the messenger. Let's understand the difference. Follow the messenger means, the word follow means to walk behind, to pursue, or to move in the same direction as someone leading the way. So literally, follow the messenger means walk the same path he is walking. You cannot follow someone who is no longer present unless you're following the same path that person left behind. So what path was the messenger following? The path we are commanded to follow. He was following the path of the Quran. Allah said in chapter 46, verse 9, "I only follow what is revealed to me. I am only a clear warner." And in chapter 7, verse 3, "Follow what has been revealed to you from your Lord." Also in chapter 31, verse 21, Allah said, "Follow what Allah has revealed and do not follow other than Him any allies." Here Allah makes it clear. Follow what He has revealed, not any allies. Allies refers to anyone you take as a source of law or truth besides Allah, including scholars, leaders, or any human authority. In conclusion, following the messenger means following the guidance and moral path of the scripture, the Quran. Obey the messenger means an immediate and practical response to the legislative command of the messenger, a relationship built on command and compliance. Its main evidence is Allah's saying, "Whoever obeys the messenger has indeed obeyed Allah." This verse makes obedience to the messenger an extension of obedience to Allah Himself, affirming that the messenger's commands and prohibitions are part of divine legislation that must be followed. To obey someone, you must hear their instruction and then act upon it. For example, no one can be told to obey your great-grandfather who has passed away. Obedience requires hearing a command and responding to it. This logic is confirmed in chapter 8, verse 20, where Allah said, "O you who have believed, obey Allah and His messenger, and do not turn away from Him while you hear His words." So as explained, you must hear a command in order to obey it. A final point about obeying and following. Allah never said, obey Muhammad or follow Muhammad. It's always obey the messenger and follow the messenger. Let's clarify this with an example. Imagine Sammy is the CEO of a company. If the employees are told, obey the CEO, it means that when Sammy leaves and a new CEO takes over, they must obey the new CEO, the position, not the person. But if I say, obey Sammy, then the command applies only to Sammy himself, not to whoever holds the title after him. The Quran uses this same level of linguistic precision. Every word is intentional and meaningful.
I see. That makes sense now. But what about Prophet Muhammad being the last prophet? Does that also mean he's the last messenger?
The Quran describes Prophet Muhammad who was both a messenger and a prophet, as the seal of the prophets, not the seal of the messengers. This distinction means that while prophethood ended with him, the possibility of new messengers coming after him is not excluded. Allah said in chapter 3, verse 81, "And remember when Allah took a covenant from the prophets, saying, 'Whatever I give you of the book and wisdom, and then there comes to you a messenger confirming what is with you, you must believe in him and support him.' He said, 'Do you affirm and accept my covenant on that?' They said, 'We affirm it.' He said, 'Then bear witness, and I am with you among the witnesses.'" This verse clearly shows that Allah took a covenant from all prophets, that if a messenger came after them, confirming the truth they had, they must believe in him and support him. It is a timeless and universal command, not limited to one era or one nation.
So when most Muslims believe that following the messenger means following every single word he said, that belief is false?
Absolutely false. If following the prophet or messenger means anything other than following the Quran itself, then the Quran would be full of contradictions. And we know that's impossible. How could Allah command us in dozens of verses to follow nothing but the Quran, then ask us to follow man-made books written centuries later about the prophet? Books the prophet never saw, never reviewed, and never approved. Now let's go through a few verses that remove all doubt and confirm that we are commanded to follow the Quran only, that Hadith belongs only to Allah, and Sunnah is the Sunnah of Allah alone. First, only Allah's words, His Hadith, are the truth. Allah said in chapter 4, verse 87, "Allah, there is no deity except Him. He will surely gather you all on the day of resurrection, about which there is no doubt. And who is more truthful than Allah in Hadith, speech?" Second, Sunnah belongs to Allah alone. Allah said in chapter 48, verse 23, "That is the Sunnah of Allah which has occurred before, and never will you find in the Sunnah of Allah any change." As I've said many times before, these so-called scholars want you to ignore your own eyes and the clear words of Allah, and believe them instead. They claim Hadith is found in Al-Bukhari or Al-Kafi, not in the Quran, even though the verses are crystal clear. They want you to follow the Sunnah of the Prophet they invented, instead of the Sunnah of Allah revealed in the Quran.
Yes, Adam. These are very clear verses for anyone who can read. But they want you to deny your own eyes, to ignore Allah's words and believe theirs instead. They say there's no way you can understand the Quran without relying on man-made books. They want you to trust these books more than the Quran itself. As Allah said in chapter 3, verse 78, "And indeed, there is among them a group who distort the scripture with their tongues, so that you may think it is from the scripture, but it is not from the scripture. And they say, 'This is from Allah,' but it is not from Allah. And they speak lies about Allah while they know."
Exactly, Omar. Now let me mention a few verses that will help clarify that you should follow the Quran only. And again, there are many more verses. You need to verify them yourself as you read the Quran. The Quran is clarification for everything you need as a Muslim, and we have sent down to you the book as clarification for all things, and as guidance and mercy and good tidings for the Muslims. Follow the Quran, not your forefathers or any humans. In chapter 31, Allah said, "And when it is said to them, 'Follow what Allah has revealed,' they say, 'Rather we will follow that which we found our fathers upon.' Even though Satan is inviting them to the punishment of the blaze, the Quran is protected by Allah. In chapter 41, Allah said, 'Falsehood cannot approach it from before it or from behind it. It is a revelation from a Lord who is wise and praiseworthy.'" Follow the Quran. Allah did not command us to follow any other book. In chapter 6, Allah said, "And this is a book we have revealed, blessed. So follow it and fear Allah that you may receive mercy." We are commanded to remind using the Quran only. In chapter 50, Allah said, "We know best what they say, and you are not over them a tyrant. So remind with the Quran whoever fears my warning." What Allah said about those who do not follow the Quran. In chapter 29, Allah said, "Is it not sufficient for them that we have sent down to you the book which is recited to them? Indeed, and that is a mercy and a reminder for a people who believe nothing is equivalent to the Quran, not to mention abrogating it with man-made books." In chapter 17, Allah said, Say, if mankind and the jinn gathered together to produce the like of this Quran, they could not produce the like of it, even if they were to each other assistants. The Quran is detailed as Allah wanted. In chapter 7, Allah said, "And we have certainly brought them a book which we detailed with knowledge, as guidance and mercy for a people who believe the Quran is from Allah. Anything other than the Quran will contain contradictions, exactly as we see today, with Hadith books that not only contradict the Quran, but also contradict each other." In chapter 4, Allah said, "Then do they not reflect upon the Quran? If it had been from other than Allah, they would have found within it much contradiction." Allah commanded the Prophet to warn with the Quran, not with any other revelation. In chapter 6, Allah said, "Say, what thing is greatest in testimony? Say Allah is witness between me and you, and this Quran was revealed to me that I may warn you thereby, and whomever it reaches. Do you truly testify that there are other gods with Allah? Say, I do not testify. Say, indeed, he is but one God, and indeed I am free of what you associate with him." I can list many, many more verses, Omar, that give the same message. But our advice to our followers is always the same. Read, study, and reflect on the Quran yourself. Otherwise, you are blindly following us or the scholars, and not Allah.
Yes, I've seen some comments accusing us of forcing our views on others. But the truth is, in nearly every video, we encourage people to seek the truth for themselves, not to follow us blindly. We simply direct them to the Quran and urge them to read it with an open mind. If, after sincerely studying the Quran and comparing it to the Hadith, they still believe there's no contradiction, then at least they've made an honest effort to find the truth on their own.
Let me close with a few key points I've already covered in many videos, but they're worth repeating. First, if it's not in the Quran, then you are not required to know it or follow it. Allah will not question you about anything outside of the Quran. Allah said in chapter 43, verse 44, "And indeed it is a reminder for you and your people, and you will be asked." Second, just because you don't find something explained in full detail in the Quran doesn't make man-made hadith books true or authentic. It simply means that this is the level of detail Allah chose to include in His book. Nothing more, nothing less. Third, don't be deceived into thinking that the same people who preserved the Quran also preserved the hadith. That's false. Allah Himself protected and transmitted the Quran. That's why all Muslims, Sunni and Shia, have one Quran yet completely different hadith books. Fourth, some people use the verse in chapter 59 as proof that we must follow hadith. Allah said, "Whatever Allah restored to His messenger from the people of the towns, it belongs to Allah, the messenger, the relatives, the orphans, the needy, and the traveler, so that it will not circulate only among the rich among you. And whatever the messenger gives you, take it, and whatever he forbids you from, refrain from it, and fear Allah. Indeed, Allah is severe in penalty." They quote only the part that says, "And whatever the messenger gives you, take it, and whatever he forbids you from, refrain from it." But the full verse clearly refers to the distribution of war spoils, not to religious authority or hadith. And even if we ignore that context, the verse still aligns with what we explained earlier. It's a command directed to those who were present with the messenger, hearing his instructions directly. Fifth and most important, once you start reading and studying the Quran with your own eyes, you'll realize it teaches a completely different religion than what hadith books describe. You can either follow the Quran or you can follow hadith, but you can't follow both. They are two different paths.
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed discovering the real Islam and found the information helpful.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you can continue learning more about Islam directly from the Quran.